Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So, I want to talk about social strategies that we can use to build each other's pedestals. We've talked about how to build our own pedestals, and now I want to focus on how we can build our own community, or at least online. So, the first thing I want to say is Happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month to all of my Blasian Exoticals. And by the way, speaking of Blasian Exoticals, the rapper Saweetie, she just released a new single, so I have been streaming that. And that actually leads me to my first point. One thing that I have always done, well, I don't think I've been perfect at it my whole life, but for the most part, I have always gone out of my way to support celebrities and musicians and actresses and stuff who look like me. So whether they have my exact mix or not, or women who have some sort of multiracial type of background like myself, that's something that I've always done. So one thing I've noticed is that on other content creators' channels, they focus a lot on what's going on in the white community, what's going on in the Asian community, or like all of these other communities and what their beauty standards are. But one thing that I do is I love to tap into my exotical energy by listening to the music of women who share my background. Oh, by the way, Tinashe also has a new song called Nasty. She performed it at Coachella. I love that song. Chloe Bailey also has a song out. And oh my gosh, speaking of artists, Willow, her new album is masterful. I've been listening to that album like every single day. She is grossly underrated. I think she is by far one of the most talented artists who is out today. But one of the ways that we can keep on building our pedestal is by supporting women who look like us. Also, Ryan Destiny came out with a song not too long ago. I have that song on my playlist. But that's something I try to always do. So you know how some people will say, "Oh, we don't get representation," or like nobody's checking for us. And I think that part of that is actually that some people, they're not checking for their own phenotypes. Like they're just listening to whatever. They're just like kind of following what's popular. But a part of how we can continue to build our pedestals is by following people who look like us. It's funny because I was actually on my phone. You know how you can press the button where it's like, it's the browse button in terms of music. And so it just plays random songs. Some song came on. It was like a hip hop song, and the rapper was a white girl. And I know that I have that in my background, but I just didn't feel like supporting it. So I just skipped the song because I was like, no, I would rather have that industry be dominated by women who have my phenotype or my racial background. And obviously, I know that I am not in control of the entire industry, but I do consider that to be one small way that I am helping to build the pedestals of other women, whether they share my phenotype, whether they share a multiracial type of background. That is something that I like to do. Another way that I still build the pedestals of other women in my community is I don't really engage in beef with women of my own personal background. Not only am I too old for that, but I tend to not really do that because also I care about our collective image as a whole. And one thing that I like about us is that we just kind of mind our business over here in exotical land. Shout out to the exotic brown skin for coming up with that phrase. I love that phrase. The exotical land. Welcome to the exotical fairy tale land. But I think that's another good way that we can keep building each other's pedestals. And something else that I thought of too, this is something that I like to do. I actually love to study and learn about other multi-generationally mixed cultures and people groups. So for example, I have been kind of looking up information about the Creole community lately. I am not Creole. Well, actually, my dad, he did have Creole on his DNA thing because his family is from Louisiana, but I don't know if that counts. But anyway, I like to study the backgrounds of other people who are like myself because then if I come across someone online who's Creole, or maybe I come across someone in real life who has a Creole background, then we share something in common. I've noticed that one tactic that people like to use against us is, oh, well, you're not biracial black and white, or you're only black and Asian, you're not Creole like me. And it's kind of like people try to divide us all up. But I've noticed that the more that we get to know one another and see the beauty in each person's culture and phenotype, the more that we can begin to align ourselves and keep building each other's pedestals. Another way that we can build each other up is by continuing to celebrate our diversity. So in case you guys haven't noticed, my channel does include all skin tones. I don't like how people try to pretend that dark-skinned mixed race women don't exist. I also don't like how people try to pretend that dark-skinned black women cannot benefit from texturism or featureism. I know that there are a lot of black women out there who have not taken the DNA test or they don't believe in it, but due to their genetics and their phenotype, they just happen to have kind of keener features and like silkier hair textures and stuff like that. So I think that's another good way that we can build each other up is by supporting women who may have a different phenotype than ours and like learning about that phenotype. Oh, another thing that I've been doing that I like that other people have been doing as well is showing positive images and clips that represent all of our different like looks and stuff. I love watching you guys' YouTube channels and seeing all the pretty images because that's actually a form of positive brainwashing because it is teaching the person to associate their own phenotype with femininity. So in case you guys haven't noticed, I like to use a lot of those types of images on my channel. If I can, I try to use some faceless images so that the person who's watching this channel can project their own face onto that feminine image. And it's a good way to kind of help yourself to visualize you at your best or to visualize yourself in like a princess outfit. I'm doing all of that on purpose. And that's one of the ways that I like to build you guys as pedestals. Another way that we can build each other's pedestals is by watching movies or media or following social media of women who share our phenotypes or share our racial backgrounds and stuff. So another issue that I've noticed with some other groups of women is they will follow all these Instagram accounts and Pinterest accounts of women who look nothing like them. And so then when it's time for them to do their beauty hobbies, they are trying to attain a look that doesn't come naturally to them. So it causes a lot of frustration because they're trying to maybe get their hair to do something it's not meant to do, or get their eye color to do something it's not meant to do, or, so it can cause frustration. And I have purposely trained my algorithms on YouTube and Instagram and Pinterest to show women who look like me, women who have blackness as a part of their identity. And that's one of the ways that I naturally build my own pedestal. And I'm also building their pedestals as well by like following them and stuff. And it's funny because every time I hear other YouTube communities talk shit about an exotical, especially if it's someone I've never heard of, like that billionaire's wife, I had never heard of her until like the other day. So now that woman's images are going to be added to my stock photo library. Now she gets to be a beauty standard on this channel for middle-aged women who have type 4 hair. And so that's another thing I like doing is kind of creating my own library of different types of beauty and celebrating all of those different types of beauty. Another way that I like to build you guys as pedestals, and one strategy we can use, is promoting ourselves in our natural state. That is something that I love doing on here. I love finding the Pinterest photos of women who have like the natural afros, or they have like West African features and they are rocking their West African features. I used to use more celebrities, but I've tried my best to not only use celebrities because I know that sometimes celebrities have a lot of plastic surgeries and stuff that I may not know about. So I do my best to just find like images of non-famous women online because it's more relatable, because not all of us have like nose jobs and stuff, or boob jobs or BBLs. So I like to promote us in our natural state. I feel like that is one of the biggest advantages that we have in this community versus in some other communities where they feel very reliant upon all of these different beauty enhancements to the point where even their own beauty standards for themselves do not tend to include women in their natural state. It's funny because I actually got a comment from an unambiguous woman today saying that I only use quote unquote unattractive women to represent monoracial, unambiguous African American women. And I don't think that's true. I've used women that I think are pretty. I don't think there's anything wrong with Ari Lennox or Tiana Taylor or Suki Hana or any of those other women that I've used. But I've noticed that some women, they just don't like to see themselves in their natural state, like without the wigs or without the nose jobs or without the keen features. And I've noticed that's always going to be their problem, is the fact that they don't like to show a person who has both a wide nose and 4C hair, and also with the dark skin to go with it. I've noticed that a lot of them don't make that their beauty standard, because if I were to ask this commenter, name 25 African American women, no, not the women from Africa that you guys try to exotify and then use as your representation, name 25 African American women with West African or Bantu features and 4C hair that you name as your beauty standard. I'll wait. And that's the reason why some of those women say they're at the bottom. It's because they have not crafted out their own beauty standard. But that's not my fight. Because one of the ways that we build our pedestals over here is we have beauty standards. I have thousands of pictures in my library of exoticals. I show them on every single video. I even have pictures of the actual subscribers from this YouTube channel that I also put into my beauty library. And so not only do we have our own beauty standards over here, but we are literally representing ourselves with our own images. By the way, my images have also been used on here as well. So for the people who think, oh my God, I'm doxing her, oh my God, she's exposed. Okay, well, I've already exposed myself on here, so it's really not a big deal. I'll never confirm or deny my identity on here. But that's one of the ways that I like to build our pedestal, is by continuously showing us in our natural state as well. So not always like this glammed up, super made up version of ourselves. I like kind of the effortless beauty that I see when I look at the other YouTube channels in this space, because it reminds me of myself being beautiful effortlessly. Another strategy we can use to build each other's pedestals is to not create hierarchies. One of my favorite things about like this channel and a lot of the other channels is we don't put one type of exotical above another type of exotical, because whenever you start creating internal hierarchies, somebody's always going to feel like they're at the bottom. And I've noticed that is another social strategy mistake that a lot of other groups of women have made. They have made hierarchies amongst themselves. Like, oh, okay, if you're a dark-skinned beauty, you have to have keen features, or you have to have 3C hair, or you have to be mixed. So they're creating hierarchies, and that's a bad social strategy, because you're still always going to have somebody within your own group who is going to feel ostracized and left out. And obviously that was us when we were in the unambiguous community. They were trying to make a hierarchy to where the dark skin with broad features and 4C hair gets the exclusive platform, which is totally fine. But then obviously we had to create our own, which I really like. So that's a great way to build each other's pedestals. It's to make sure that everybody has their own pedestal, and to not put one over the other, like, oh, okay, well, this person's light skinned, so they're higher, and then that person's dark skinned. No, it's just everybody gets to be comfortable in their identities. Everybody gets to just chill and stay pretty. Another strategy that we can use to build each other's pedestals is by creating other online communities. So I have a Patreon and a Discord. Some other girls on here, they have Patreons as a part of their channel. Somebody has like a Facebook group. I can't remember if I shared it or not. But if you're the owner of the Facebook group, please comment or email me so I can share it, because I think I actually forgot to share it. But yeah, some women are going to start a Reddit page for us as well. So that's going to be exciting. I know that some of you guys have TikTok pages. I have a TikTok, but because of the time it takes to create content, it makes more financial sense for me to stick to YouTube, because YouTube is the hardest to grow on, but it's the most lucrative, versus TikTok, where you get paid pennies per day, depending on how big or small your TikTok is. But that is another way that we can build each other's pedestals. It's by creating more online spaces for one another, or like spaces where we can all strategize and just kind of like laugh and gain intel and have fun. Another way that we can build each other's pedestals is by not calling out each other's quote unquote flaws. So one mistake that I've seen other groups of women make is they will make fun of another girl's wig, another girl's lashes, another girl's, like, they'll make fun of everything about that girl within their own group, and they don't realize that they're actually dissing themselves by doing that. Like by making fun of African features on someone who also has African ancestry. Like, that doesn't make sense. So I've noticed that one of the really good strategies we've used is not bashing any particular phenotype or skin tone on here, or hair texture. That's another amazing way to build our collective image. Another strategy that we can use to build each other's pedestals is not bashing our own communities. So for example, notice how this is actually just a decentering men channel altogether. I don't have a whole entire series about how MLS men are trash and, they're at the bottom of the barrel. They're conquered, they're monkeys and apes. I don't do that because, that's still my phenotype. So if I were to pull up a picture of Drake and say like, oh my God, he's so ugly, look at his face, look at his skin tone, look at his hair, I would literally be dissing my own features. And so I think that's another good strategy that we have been using to build each other's pedestals as women, is to, first of all, keep ourselves separate from the emotional men online who will try to infiltrate these spaces. And also not going out of our way to specifically bash other people within our groups and just kind of minding our own business and then letting other people do their own thing. Another strategy that we can use to continuously build each other's pedestals is to keep on talking about the positive aspects of our identities, to keep talking about how amazing it is to be a part of the Pretty Girl Club, to keep on highlighting our own beauty, highlighting our positive traits, highlighting our accomplishments, highlighting the fact that we literally have vice presidents within our group. We literally have music icons in our group. We have all kinds of beauty queens in our group. And even when it comes to non-famous exoticals, like even if you look at the girls on YouTube who create content, we've got women in their teens, their 20s, 30s, and 40s. We've got women who have master's degrees. There are some women in like the Discord and stuff. They have all these professional jobs. So that's actually a way of us still building our pedestal because we are still interacting with leveled up women within our own spaces, as opposed to trying to fit into other spaces that don't welcome us. Another strategy we can use to build each other's pedestals is mentoring or supporting the businesses of women who look like us. I love to subscribe to the Patreons and members pages of women who have my same phenotype. By the way, if you have a Patreon and you're a content creator in this space, can you please let me know in the comment section so I can subscribe to your Patreon? But I love to support the businesses of women who share my background or my phenotype. I remember when I was in Mexico and there was this one little girl, she had my exact phenotype. She was like 5 years old selling bracelets, and I specifically went up to her to buy a bracelet instead of going to all of the other little girls there that were selling bracelets. And I strategically did that because I wanted her to have the money. I wanted her to be the person that I am purchasing from. And that's a good little strategy that we can use to make sure that we're always kind of building each other up. Another strategy that we can use, I don't know if I mentioned this in other videos before, but it's creating our own language. Phrases like MLS and ABW, these are phrases that we literally made up here in these types of spaces. And so it's almost like this coded language to where if you're not a part of our community, you're not going to really know what that means, unless, of course, you're a person who wishes you were maybe a part of this community. So you're kind of stalking and hate watching. Hey, girl, see you on Lipstick Alley. Can't wait to see you on the next episode of Comment Foolery Exposed. But creating our own language, that is another way to really build a pedestal. And that's also a marketing strategy that some companies use. So companies like Starbucks, they specifically use certain terminologies to describe their lattes because if you know what those terminologies mean, it's almost like being a part of some sort of exclusive club or something, or being a part of some group. And so I actually like the fact that we are starting to create our own slang terms like the Pretty Girl Club or MLS or ambiguous black women or exotical land. Another thing I like to do is random acts of kindness. So for example, I told the story about how I was in a Sephora one time and there was a non-black girl who helped me, and there was also a little light-skinned black teenage girl who helped me. And when I got to the front and they were like, did anyone help you today? You know how they give points or whatever to like whoever helps you. I specifically named the girl who had the phenotype and the background that was like mine. Because that was just a small little act of kindness to kind of make her life a little bit easier and kind of add on to her quote unquote privilege. So that's something that I like to do. Another strategy that we can use to build each other's pedestals is using our spiritual knowledge to our advantage and sharing it with one another. So I don't necessarily consider myself to be spiritual or religious, but I will say that because I like to study psychology and sociology and science so much, I've noticed that there are a lot of overlaps with different spiritualities. And so let me know if you want me to talk about anything within that space on YouTube. I know you guys said you wanted me to talk about affirmations or maybe do some affirmations. Oh, by the way, be sure to subscribe to Dulce K, Subliminal Barbie X, and the Exotic Brown Skin. Those are 3 creators I can think of off the top of my head who have subliminals and like affirmations on their channel. I think Subliminal Barbie X might have changed her username to like Exotic Barbie or something like that. But can you ladies comment down below if you do have a channel that has subliminals or affirmations? But I love watching the different girls here on YouTube and hearing them talk about like their spiritual journey or like their different practices and stuff and kind of how they have peace when they're like living their everyday lives. I was watching a video by Dulce K and she had this really peaceful music playing in the background. So I was like feeling all peaceful while I was working out at the gym. But yeah, that's another way that we can build each other's pedestals. But what do you ladies think? How can we strategize to build our own pedestals and to help build each other up? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time.
Stay pretty, ladies.